All right, everyone, welcome back. It's been a great conference so far. Happy to announce our next presenter. We have Entrex Carbon Market. It trades on the OTC under the symbol UNSS and is the first regulatory compliant marketplace for buying, selling, and retiring carbon offsets. Please welcome its president and CEO, Stephen Watkins. Welcome, Stephen.
Hello, Anna. Great to be back. Thank you for having us again. Appreciate it.
All right, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks. Well, everybody, it's great to be back. As you recall, Entrex, we are merging with UNSS. Hope to have things finalized in the next day or two, actually. So that's an exciting change for us. Just as a little edification, Entrex, we're a leading provider of regulatory compliant trading platforms for the alternative investment market. And I'll get into that in a moment. I've got to do the forward-looking statements. We've got the 33 Act forward-looking section. We've got the 33 Act forward-looking section. So I ask you to read these and acknowledge these as we go forward. We'll be making representations that we hope will be sound, but obviously sometimes things outside our control can occur. So with that said, Entrex's vision and mission was very simple. We said, how do we improve the capital access for entrepreneurs? There's 28 million companies in America. There's only about 3,400 to 3,800 on the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ boards. And therefore, how do we have efficient capital access for entrepreneurs? Just as a little history, my father did a $5 million offering on the American Stock Exchange back in the 70s. And today that company is a $14 billion revenue company. And that's very hard to duplicate today in the way the capital access program works on NASDAQ and ICE, unless you're really coming out of Silicon Valley, jump onto the NASDAQ private market, then obviously up to NASDAQ or the NYSE. It's very hard for private companies to raise capital, and that's what we went to solve. We did that. We developed an end-to-end technology platform that embraces the local finders on the street all the way through the broker-dealers on Wall Street that access the institutional investors. We had to make a platform that was compliant, so FINRA and the SEC could work together with all the regulated broker-dealers working in that sector. And so that's what we did. Today, we take that same platform and we create capital markets for securitized product, commodities, debt, and equity for entrepreneurs. And so our focus has been to take this technology platform we founded Entrex for and use it in as many sectors as possible to help create capital market systems. Our technology platform is interesting. We were the first, our broker-dealer was the first to manage a security on the blockchain. We helped trade the Overstock.com Tiger Cup securities. This is back in 2015. So we've been a while doing this. Good or bad, every trade has been reviewed by both FINRA and the SEC. Both part of that's an education program, part of that's an education program, part of that is just compliance. And so we're happy to say we've survived through those. The technology platform is, end-to-end is an overused term, but it starts at inquiries from broker-dealers. We receive up to 18 a day from 3,400 nationwide brokers, which we call market members, but we had to control that. So we had to make a system that was scalable so we could help manage the influx of the inputs so we could manage the outputs properly. And in the end, probably the simplest thing to think about is if you look at NASDAQ and NYSE, the 3,400 companies, they both trade. They sell those products. 80% of that is purchased by about 28,000 mutual funds and ETFs. So they're really aggregators of product that get fed up to the institutional investors, those mutual funds and ETFs. Our world is really very similar. We need to start at the beginning, and we need to work through that all the way through the broker-dealer community to the institutional investors and make it a very efficient, regulated market space. I joke, all the fintech companies, they write their white papers and they go and raise $52 million overnight. We were fortunate enough that IBM actually wrote a case study about our technology. It won a U.S. Small Business and SBA Financial Advocate of the Year award, which we're very proud of. Today, IBM's nominated us for a FinTech award. Obviously, we'll see how that goes. But it's a pretty robust program. If you see it, it kind of, again, it starts on the left and it kind of goes all the way to the right. And it does it in a way that we help originate, we structure the offerings, we help place, trade, and settle those, and then we service, and then we help manage secondary trading. And so all of that's done under the idea of regulatory compliance, because we need to make sure that the broker-dealers throughout the process are taken care of, which in turn protects investors. And so that's really kind of the corporate focus as Entrex. What we want to talk today about is the Entrex Carbon Market. We're a regulatory compliant marketplace for buying, selling, and retiring carbon offset securities and carbon offset futures. And so our focus has been to say, how do we bring credibility and stability to that financial market? And let me just show you quickly how we're kind of interrelated. So Entrex, OTC, UNSS, we are a holding company of submarkets. Each marketplace, we own a non-dilutive 51% of the ownership. All right. And so in the Entrex Carbon Market, we own 51% of that, as I said. We also, sorry about that technology hiccup there, but we also have a licensing agreement, which is typically $30 million per marketplace for our technology, which represents usually 20% of revenue. And we have buyout agreements so that Entrex will be buying out those marketplaces when they reach various EBITDA milestones. When you look at the Entrex Carbon Market, for example, we own 51% non-dilutive, 49% is owned typically by the founders. In that particular case, we have a $31 million technology license. We receive 1/3 of the transaction fees pursuant to the licensing agreement. And we have a $15 million buyout, which is at 11.6 times EBITDA with a $15 million minimum trailing 12 months, which gives us $174 million valuation on the buyout. And so that's kind of why the founders of the Entrex Carbon Market come to us, is they know they've got an exit strategy. Their 49% will be bought out at that $174 million. And then obviously we'll have arbitrage on top of that in UNSS. So just very quickly from Entrex, the carbon market, we established demand with partners through really large-scale carbon offset users. And what I mean by that is, and I'll show you that in a second, but separately from that, we then provide supply through UN-registered minted offsets. When you look at the supply side, we have a program, we've got now over 100 sales and marketing representatives, and they're pushing a program called Money Grows on Trees, because carbon offsets grow on trees. And so hence our program, we're working with the state of Hawaii, we're working with some very, very large school systems, some Indian reservations. We deal with high volume suppliers of carbon offset futures. The key to us for our client base, as you'll see in a second, is we need large, consistent offset production. We can't have offset production this year and not next year. And so when you look at the demanders, right, the demand side that we've helped put together, we're working with a tremendous number of retailers, in this case in the beef market, and others, that one's fish. There's another chicken one. It's all about how do we efficiently allow a consumer to decide if they want to be carbon neutral? And so what we've done here is we say, if you'd like, just the same way you ask, the retail clerk asks, do you want plastic or paper bags? Now they can say, would you like to be carbon neutral? And if they do, they double scan the item. They scan the barcode for the purchase of the item, plus they scan the barcode for the carbon neutral piece of the item. Those then are collected through the point of sale systems, which ultimately then say, all right, let's buy this number of offsets, which offset the production from the consumers. So there's some very, very large scale projects we're working with them. And if you can imagine the large beef and chicken suppliers nationally, we're working with some of the Alaskan cod fishermen that want to feed it down cycle, which is kind of interesting to me. One of the largest projects we're working on is this carbon neutral fuel. We work together, I think you saw the announcement from Source Oil, which is about a $3 billion letter of intent to provide a bunker fuel, which is that thick, sludgy oil, to the shipping industry, which creates a tremendous amount of carbon. And obviously, it's prohibitive to replace all of the engines in the shipping globally. And so the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, is looking for solutions to provide carbon offsets to the carbon producers, their shipping clients. And so that's a very, very large project, which we'll need to develop for the offset producers for. One of the other fun projects that's going to come out of that is carbon neutral fuel. That middle band of fuel, the mid-grade fuel, is a very underutilized button. And so what we're working with a couple of the suppliers nationally for is to say, instead of a low, mid, and high grade, have a low and high grade plus a carbon neutral grade. And if a consumer wants carbon neutral gasoline for their polluting car, then they get to select that, and suddenly those are collected again through the point of sale system and then provided to us for purchase. And so both kind of interesting projects. When you look at what we've done from our projected revenues, the buyout, and the valuations, we've made sure we've got over $3 billion in letter of intent today of supply. We've nearly got $1 billion offsets in the works from producers, which would represent about $6 billion in potential revenue. Interestingly enough, the projects we have in place today represent enough revenue, and we believe EBITDA, to easily trigger that $15 million buyout, which, as I've mentioned before, to the Entrex Carbon Market represents $174 million. But to us, pursuant to Financial Technologies Partners, who's probably the lead in the fintech investment banking sector, suggests it would represent about $431 million to us. And again, I go back to those forward-looking statements. But it's an exciting opportunity. If you see how that arbitrage works that we're working with, it's very similar to how Royal Palm Capital Partners and Rick Rashan and Wayne Huizenga work together to do roll-ups of Blockbuster and CBiz and AutoNation and all of their roll-ups, which took advantage of the arbitrage for the buyers and sellers from the franchises up to the corporate. And so we're using a very similar model. Obviously, Rick's operated a number of those in waste management with Wayne, and Rick is obviously integral in our program here. So, oops, look at that. We got a great leadership team from Grella down, through Rick and Steve, me. Mike's got a tremendous amount of experience on a national basis from his experience at Amazon. Rick, obviously, from Wayne, and I think they're 14 New York Stock Exchange companies. And here I am trying to lead the team. So let me tell you just a little bit about where we are on capital raises today. We've got Entrex, OTC, UNSS, as we've talked about. We are doing a $5 million pipe, which is in process. We've got the Entrex Carbon Market, which is doing a $15 million green bond. And so those are the two capital transactions today. If we look briefly at the Entrex capital raise, the $5 million, we've got the commitment from about a month ago from Red Springs for $3 million. We're working through that. We'll see how that goes. We've got $2 million that's still in process. We're out raising that. We've got a few institutions that would like to take the whole thing, which may work together with Red Springs or not. We'll find out how that plays out. But so that's there for operations expenses. It is a convertible debt structure, which will trigger it to equity. Looks like it's going to be trailing 90 days average, et cetera, et cetera. So as we play there, we've got the green bond initiative. Now this is for the carbon market. It's not capital for the carbon market. It is capital for projects. So those $1 billion offsets that we're in the process of working with, each take, let's say about $2 of cost to create the offset through the registration with the UN, the methodology approval, Then it goes to validation, verification, and finally minting and retirement. That process costs about $2 per offset. So at 1 billion offsets, that's a significant number. We believe we can start with about 15 million and crawl, walk, run as we get into kind of the nitty gritty of the various projects. So again, project financing, it does meet the ESG investment initiatives for the green climate. So we're excited about that. That is going to be a debt structure with the project revenue share. So I believe it's a 12% interest annual return of capital, and then 3-year trailing revenue share on the projects that are invested. So it's a pretty interesting transaction. So there are kind of 2 transactions that we're working with. So in summary, we believe we've established demand, we've established supply, we've got the pipe to put together for operations and marketing, typical OpEx. We've got the debt or the green bond for the Entrex Carbon Market for execution. And we feel that we've got a lot of exciting things happening. I know there's going to be questions about the public vehicle. We are merging into it. It's been a long time coming. We believe the last announcement, we expected the financials to be filed for the beginning of the CE process removal. We believe that's about done. So we should be there. I keep saying it's going to be today or tomorrow. I feel it's going to be today or tomorrow, and it always seems to extend. But that is outside of our capabilities at this point. But we are going forward on the pipe, which will certainly, those investors will make sure it gets done properly, as we will. And then the Entrex Carbon Market will have its execution funding. So we'll have a lot of exciting things. And hopefully at the next Emerging Growth Conference, we'll be able to report on some of the successes. And so with that, I thank you very much for the opportunity. We're always here to answer questions. And if there's any today, and I'm not sure if we're doing any questions today, but I appreciate the opportunity today.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. We do have some questions from our viewers. So if you have 10 more minutes, then we would love to ask these questions to you.
Well, I'm ready. Bring them on.
All right. Okay. So when do you expect to become current with OTC markets?
Well, that's unfortunately a little bit outside of our capability, Anna, but the quick answer is I spoke to Paul seconds before our presentation, Paul Andrew, who's the CEO of UNSS, who's the exiting team or leading the exiting team, will be staying with us. Paul indicated he's got the financials in hand. They expect to be filed with the OTC and the SEC today. We'll see if that happens, if they're ready for publication, and then that starts that whole CE process. I know his legal team has put the legal opinion together as well. So I'm hoping the next visit, Anna, will be exciting for us.
Good, good.
Right.
Currently, how is the company capitalized?
We've put about $20 million into Entrex historically. We've had $250,000 put in about a month ago, as part of the pipe. We've got the $3 million commitment. We got the balance out. So there you go. Okay.
How is the $5 million pipe structured as far as price? Does it come with any warrants?
It will be a discount to the 90-day trailing trading value.
Okay. And so what is the projected time for a carbon offset project to translate into revenue in the Entrex piggy bank?
The Entrex piggy bank. The first letters of intent were cash-free, which puts the onus on the investors and us to deliver, only because they were first to market. So that will take probably 3 months before the progress payment can be converted from paid to revenues. How's that for? We'll defer revenues until it's earned, if you will, like a work in progress type structure. And then by the end of the year, a calendar year from implementation, that you'll have all the revenues for that delivered. So I think probably a 3-month delay till the first revenues of each project, with the balance of probably 70% delivered over the last 6 to 9 months of the project.
Okay. And is Entrex Carbon Markets the issuer of the bonds? And are they for sale? And are they rated?
They are not rated. They are for sale. They are just getting released. And I missed the first part of that question. I'm sorry.
Are you the issuer of the bonds?
Entrex is the issuer of the pipe. The Entrex Carbon Market is the issuer of the bonds.
Okay. And what is the current authorized, issued, or outstanding public float? And how much of, on a percentage basis, should the convertible debt dilute these numbers?
It's my understanding, and again, that's part of the year-end financial statements and the legal opinion, but I understand there's about 600 million authorized shares allocated. Authorized shares, there's 2.5 billion authorized. And the dilution I would have expect to be probably today it would be 5 to 10%. I think it'd be 1 to 2% by the time it's actually executed on with the trigger events.
Stephen, what sector do you see your largest growth rate coming from?
Well, that's a good question. We, as an entrepreneurial exchange, Entrex, we believe that local investors want to invest locally. And although we don't talk about it prior to COVID, so in February last year, it seems like a decade ago, February last year, we had 5 state initiatives working with Mike Rella from Amazon to create entrepreneurial markets at the local level. So a Florida market, a Texas market, a Nevada market, a couple others. And we believe that based on the 28 million companies in America and the disparate across the nation, that's the growth sector that I think has enormous opportunities. Although only recently with COVID opening up have the economic development teams of the states even started to talk about economic development for the private companies across the state. So I think that's a great sector. Today we see carbon market as a big one. We've obviously got the art market. We'll be talking about probably that the next visit together with the emerging growth conferences. But I hope that answers the question. So I think the state markets is a really growth opportunity, but we're not talking about that yet.
Okay. Who are you licensing your technology to, and what do you expect your license revenue to be by the close of 2022?
Well, the $3 billion. If you look at just the $3 billion with Source Oil, that represents about $300 million in trading. It's about $60 million in licensing fees to us, and we have a limit of 31 million. I think that will be crawling and walking this calendar year in 2021, and I think it'll be will be up to scale in 2022. And I think in mid 2022, I'd expect us to execute the buyout option for the Entrex Carbon Market into us. So by then, I think we'll have all of that $31 million in licensing revenues from the Entrex Carbon Market at that point.
Okay. A viewer is asking for a little clarification. Is your technology clearing trades for NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange?
No, ma'am. No. We push. So everybody pushes. That ticker on the bottom of the financial screens that you see is all something called FIX, the Financial Industry Exchange Data Protocol. Any marketplace can distribute via FIX or the blockchain, if it ever turns into that, up into that feed. And then broker-dealers can pick up that feed, make and buy sales from that feed. So NASDAQ, when they do a trade or a broker does a trade on NASDAQ, that gets distributed via FIX onto the data stream. When a broker-dealer does one on NYSE, that gets distributed via FIX onto that data stream. If a broker-dealer did a trade on ours, like the primary and secondary trades that have been done, we can distribute that up via FIX to that same data stream. Now, if CNN decides or the financial news networks we now want to pick up the Entrex's feed, they would grab that FIX data and they'd say, all right, let's grab that and put that in our screen. So it's up to the user, it's up to the broker-dealer that receives that FIX data to say, hey, I want to pick up NASDAQ, I want to pick up NYSE, or I want to pick up Entrex, or I want to pick up the carbon market and not the state market. So it's a kind of a complicated process. The first part of the process is distributing the data, or having a trade, so then distributing the data.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. So someone else is asking, when you say you create the supply and demand, is this through a marketing program? And if so, what is your current marketing budget on a quarterly basis?
We are leading this with an independent representative group. As I mentioned, we have over 100 reps today. The program is called the Money Grows on Trees. How could I forget that? The Money Grows on Trees program. The marketing budget has been, we've spent about 250 grand. We'll probably be spending another $500,000 on it. But we're already seeing some great results. So we're excited to see where it goes.
Someone's asking, can you explain the difference between Entrex and Entrex Carbon Markets? What is the structure?
So the Entrex Inc., which is the OTC UNSS merged enterprise, is the holding company that licenses technology and is the public liquid entity. The Entrex Carbon Market is a private company. It's an LLC. That one's based in Florida. 49% is owned by the founders of the company. Those founders have a buyout option from Entrex Inc. for 11.6 times trailing 12 months EBITDA at a minimum EBITDA of $15 million. So they are creating the market. They're building the rep teams. They're building the supply, meaning in this case, the supply of carbon offsets. So we've gone to people like Hawaii and Indian tribes to build billions of dollars worth of value of product, carbon offsets. And then we've gone out to the source oils of the world, the fuel people, the retail, chicken, meat, and fish to provide the demand side. So basically, we needed to have a consistent level of supply with a consistent series of demand to come together for the carbon offset market. So today we have about $3 billion of that in the works. And so as that starts flowing through, you'll start seeing the trades, you'll start seeing the income from those.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, Stephen, last question. What are your revenue targets for Entrex for the remainder of 2021 and 2022? And do you plan to eventually uplist to a higher exchange?
Yeah, I think just if you just look at the Entrex carbon market alone, our expectations are to get into that $15-30 million EBITDA stage over the next 6 to 12 months. Part of that will hit in 2021, the balance in 2022. Because we own 51% on a non-dilutive basis, all of that revenue and EBITDA will float up to the parent company, the Entrex Inc. or UNSS. We hope to be able to uplist. If you look at what Rick and Wayne did, that's what they did. They took an OTC company, merged into it, and then pushed it up to typically New York Stock Exchange. Obviously that's part of our abilities. Part of it is the market, et cetera. And we anticipate there's a lot going on behind the scenes. We'll be anticipate changing the symbol, doing all sorts of things, probably reversing a reverse split so we can get a price to a reasonable price. So there's a lot going on.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Always a joy to hear about your updates, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you again on the next conference.
You got it, Anna. Thanks. Appreciate the opportunity. See you again.
All right.
Bye.
All right, everyone. It's been a great conference today. And on behalf of all of us at Emerging Growth, I'd like to thank all of our presenters, our attendees for making this Emerging Growth Conference such a great success. Remember, there's a complete replay of this conference separated by company. It's going to be on the Emerging Growth Conference YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Emerging Growth Conference. Make sure you subscribe there. And follow us on Twitter at Emerging Growth C. We post all new information to Twitter first. I'm Anna Berry, and on behalf of myself and everyone who made this event possible today, I wish you all a great rest of your day, a great prosperous week, and we look forward to seeing you back here again soon. Thank you all.